Welcome back to Gällivare for the second race of the day, and the snowboarders have nothing to do with it. This is just a quick wide shot of the area, and a fantastic area for early season racing it is too. Weather conditions, well, the air temperature at 0.1 of a degree. It's very, very mild, but they've got some snow, which is more than David Goldstrom can say in Lillehammer at the moment, as we have a look at the course profile. 3 times 5 kilometres. We've just seen the women race over it. Mike, how tough is that big climb going to be on the third loop?
The third loop is going to be painful, and you have to pace this properly. Look at the undulations throughout this course. Quite a unique course in that there's very, very little recovery. Only at about 2.2 kilometres you get some form of rest.
So 15 kilometres, we've got a problem already, and Matvienko of Kazakhstan.
I've never seen the likes of this before. What has happened? They're telling him
to go. Well, that is about the worst possible start you can get. I hope he gets some sort of recompense, because as far as I could see, he was called back, and the language problem obviously getting in the way there. So off we go with Martin Johansson. A couple of others, Pepeni and Hamilton, have already got underway. The Americans are looking for more good results after a brilliant morning, with Randall getting on the podium and Holly Brooks also in the top 5 in the women's 10 kilometre, and the men obviously racing 5 kilometres further. We're expecting the 15k to take well, roughly 30 minutes. What are you predicting today, Mike?
I think it'll be a bit more, probably around 33 minutes. The women, taking 22, so I would imagine about 33 for the men over 15.
We'll find out soon enough. Roman Ferger from Switzerland lives in Schattdorf.
He won the Engadine Marathon, Ferger, so longer distance good.
Now, Britain's number 1. Andrew Musgrave. Now, cross-country skiing, not a sport we've done brilliantly in over the years, but Andrew Musgrave has taken it up a level, and he really is starting to challenge the top skiers in Scandinavia, and don't expect him to be more than a minute and a half behind today's winner. And if he achieves that, he could find himself in the top 30, winning World Cup points. And I think we could see a pretty spectacular season from him.
I really hope so. I've always believed in Andrew Musgrave, and I think last year he showed what he can do in Scandinavia in the Norwegian Championships. 15-kilometre freestyle, he finished second. The best of the Norwegians were all there. It's quite amazing.
So Marcus Ottosson will be chasing Musgrave, and Musgrave highly respected in Scandinavia now. He's a sought-after member of many of the commercial teams, with good industrial companies sponsoring them, and he's certainly no joke amongst the top Norwegians. Ellefsen, who's got himself into the Movember club, not bad for a couple of weeks. Now, the American women were sensational, Mike. I think it's fair to say, particularly over the early stages. I'm just a little concerned. We had a lot of snow earlier on, and there have not been a lot of people skiing on the tracks over the last hour and a half in between the 2 races. I think these early starters actually have got a bit of a short straw.
It seems that way. As you say, the snow just recently has backed off a little bit. I hope that the track is going to be, well, as fair as it can be when your start list is over an hour and a half. In fact, should I say 50 minutes, of course, at 30-second intervals. Look at the light, Patrick, already. It's, local time? We're just after 12:30. It seems as if the daylight is leaving us, which it does by about 2:30.
And they've still got another 3.5, 4 weeks of the days getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and there'll be a big party on December the 21st when the days start to get longer again. It really is very, very tough. I'm sure lots of people in the north of the UK finding it hard to adjust to these winter nights.
Gary Varis, another good distance racer. He's been a couple of times winning the 63-kilometre race, Marathon Cup race in Lahti.
Alice Razim for the Czech Republic, and the Czechs will be glad that Lukáš Bauer has already shown signs of form this year. A couple of good pre-season races from him, getting in the top 3, and if Bauer gets anywhere near his best, he might be a challenger for a podium finish today.
You mentioned Bauer, Patrick. Certainly, he still, remember last year he had some problems with his Achilles heel, especially in the classic technique. He's still having problems with that same injury. It couldn't have been bad last week when he came second here.
Number 28, he's signing. Number 128, number 12, Tad Elliott, who is a member of the Vale Ski and Snowboard Club, 24-year-old from USA. We saw a little bit of him last year, finished 148th in the World Cup rankings, but he did get a top 15 result in Shushan, over 15 kilometers free, so he could do something here today. Jon Christian Dahl of Norway, a good result, absolutely crucial for Dahl if he wants to be a member of the A team that goes on the rest of the World Cup Tour. I think we could find he is the early pace setter. Should get a time split at 2.3 kilometers. We've been working hard on the technical aspect and hoping that our live timings work for us. We had no joy in the women's race. Number 14, Kerstin Pearl from Switzerland. Switzerland, of course, with the world number 1, will all be hanging on for the next 40 minutes or so. Dario Colonia, the world number 1, is last to start, and Pearl will be trying to match the man. He comes from Pontresina, which of course is just about on the route of the Engadin Marathon.
Must be an advantage when Pontresina, 1,800 metres, Patrick, to live there, to train there. You certainly do carry some more red blood cells, which you need so much, gasping for oxygen here.
Yeah, there's still that question of how much of an advantage do you get living at altitude when you race low down. There's no doubt that these guys will be happier in Davos at 1,600 metres. Does it make a lot of difference here?
I think there's a lot of evidence over the years to show that altitude training prior to major competitions certainly does enhance the red blood cells, therefore enhances performance at lower down as well.
Ferger sets the fastest time, going through 2.3. Many more still to come. Welcome back to Gällivare, the big name still waiting to start in this opening race of the season. 15 kilometers for the men freestyle, and for those of you who are new to cross-country skiing, the two techniques: freestyle, which is akin to skating, as you can see, no stick wax on the base of the skis, just it's all designed for glide and speed, and then the classic, which is the traditional technique where they stay in the two spores, the tracks that are cut, and you have a 12, 18-inch length of sticky wax underneath the base to give you some traction on the snow. This technique came in around 1985 in Seefeld, and the transition was incredibly quick, but every year since then they seem to come up with new ideas of how to make it more efficient, make it faster, and of course the training has changed in line with the skiing techniques. And fair to say that these athletes now are considerably stronger than they used to be back in the mid-1980s. Musgrave already through 2.3. If Andy Musgrave's got a weakness, Mike, possibly that he doesn't pace his races quite right. He's got that 100% effort mentality all the way around.
That's a thing, and I think you only learn that as you get older. This will be his 21st World Cup race. I think that he's a very much wiser athlete now. I had a good chat with him on the glacier at Ramsau. He was having to be more disciplined working with his Veidekke team, and all the Norwegian information, it's good information. He's listening to it, and I think he's learning the track skills and especially that discipline. As you say, there's no point in going crazy from the gun to the line because you will run out of steam. I think he really has got his game in order for this season.
Yeah, that business of racing hard is fine, but when you train hard as well, you tend to have a training and your racing speed have very little differential. And the Norwegians firmly believe in when you're doing distance training, it's pretty slow.
I think they're so firm on that, and it's absolutely right. You can't be pushing hard all the time. You have to build the capillaries, so therefore long, slow distance training over many, many hours, and it builds the endurance to cope with racing from November right the way through to the end of March. An
early start number for Jon Christian Dahl, and I thought he might set the pace at 2.3, but it's not the case. Ferger is still there for Switzerland. 5.18 for Jon Christian Dahl. Good sprinter. Norwegians were really the first nation to crack the sprinting And since then, the Russians have certainly taken steps to improve. Swedes are pretty handy, and there'll be a good battle in the sprint races throughout the season. Now, Pearl puts Switzerland 1 and 2, so the Swiss are doing what the Americans did in the women's race just over an hour ago.
If you remember last season at this time, Patrick, the Swiss team, they stayed down in Davos because they had some early winter snow down there, and that's quite high altitude, and they were on very good form. This season they've been up in Kiruna, which is only, what, 150 kilometres from here in Gällivare, and it'll be interesting to see how their form is in relation to how it was last year.
David Hofer for Italy just leaving the stadium. Starting behind him, Remo Fischer, another of the Swiss. We've already seen two of them starting well, so we can make the assumption that they've got good skis and that their instructions are to go hard from the gun. And away he goes with good start, powerful legs, you can see. The quads, my goodness, he's got a lot of weight there. I'm not so sure he'll be the optimum size for a hill runner. But on the cross-country skis, certainly he's a fairly powerful individual. Jonsson coming up now. Musgrave lying in the top 11 at the moment through 2.3, and Jonsson some way outside the pace. Now maybe we should celebrate the fact that our computer has just kicked into life with our live timings, Mike, by giving us an update at 2.3.
Delighted it's working now. I'm just looking further along the track at the third split, in fact, and we've got Johansson, whether this is right, to 10.32, and Andy Musgrave's just 1.1 second behind him in second place.
Marcus Hellner there for Sweden, looking fairly focused. Now, most athletes go through pretty nervous times before a race. Mike, you've done a few thousand races in your time. Were you one of those who got excited, or did you feel nauseous or nervous? How did it affect you?
Do you know, in the early days, I would be sick before the race. The nerves were that bad. And you can't go into races like that, especially in biathlon, which I later did. And you have to try and be so relaxed. There's no point in stressing before a race. Yes, you've got to go through your warm-ups, all the routines, and fill that time positively and effectively before the race so you can be distracted. But control, and most of these athletes have showed total control. They are World Cup, they are the best.
Yeah, and interesting, all the athletes will have different tactics. The older ones will know exactly what they need to do. Sometimes it's the job of the team manager or maybe the team psychologist to just keep an eye on the athletes as they prepare for the race and tell them when to switch into concentration mode and then come out of that sort of relaxed, just pretend you're not about to put yourself through an immense amount of pain.
I used to find, in fact, just lying down, even on the snow, just for 2 minutes to just effectively take all the stress, let it drop through your body into the snow, and it really does relax you, ready for this, well, 33 minutes of absolute maximum effort.
Ivan Perilla for France, racing on his Rossignol skis, and of course there's a battle with the ski manufacturers. Now, you might recognise that face, and if you do know your winter sport, you'll know that he's in the wrong sport. Martin Fourcade, the champion in biathlon last year, has decided to put his skis on for a little bit of cross-country. He's doing what Bjorn Dahlen has done in the past. Your money firmly on Fourcade to win this one.
I think he could win this one. He did do well in Beiterstolen last weekend, 2 weekends ago. But it's a new sport to him. He doesn't get the luxury of stopping at a shooting range for a 30-second recovery. And boy, that does recover you. So to be doing a straight race for 33 minutes, it's a slightly different feel on the body. But I think he's very sensible coming here to take part in this one. I think he'll make a top 5, Martin Fourcade.
Well, we'll find out. Fourcade obviously racing for France. He starts number 46, and he's got a pretty good start. He's starting 30 seconds behind Axel Teichmann, a former World Cup overall winner. And his odds, just in case you're interested, 25 to 1. And I suspect my co-commentator has a few euros placed on it. Not today.
No, none of that. But it will be interesting. And we saw some of the German biathletes in Munio taking part in the FIS race.
Here's one of the Germans, Thomas Bing. And a fast start from him, from the 22-year-olds. 34 underway. We've still got a whole host, 97 in all, racing today. Welcome back to the first day of the cross-country World Cup season. We're in Gällivare in the north of Sweden, just 100 k's or so south of Kiruna, the mining town. And although the weather hasn't been brilliant, the temperatures are very kind. It's hovering around the 0 mark. The snow's in pretty good condition. They worked hard to make the racing track fast. And we're keeping an eye on there. And there goes Britain's number 1. Number 6, that was Andrew Musgrave going through his... Well, he's done 1.5 laps now. He's still got some way to go. But we're hoping for, what, World Cup points? Do you think that's a realistic chance?
I think it is, Patrick. Remember last year Andrew finished his best result, 28th. I think this year we'll see him slotting into the top 15, possibly on a couple of occasions. I really hope so.
Ivan Babikov has moved to Canada, or he moved to Canada some time ago, and actually he played a major part in the resurgence of the Canadians. He came across with a different work mentality to many.
It's an interesting concept, isn't it? He came through with this incredible dedication and workload aspect to his training, and it really has lifted Canada.
Nelson of Sweden setting the fastest time at 2.3. Don't pay too much attention to that at the moment. In the women's, where they were racing over 10 kilometres, it was significant, but in the men's 15, I don't think we're going to see too much of a variation.
Rickardson there, Patrick, he didn't have a good season last year. Great season 2 seasons ago. And he said that a lot of it largely down to his summer's training was maybe just a little bit too much on the big distance training. This year he's cut back on the big distance and has pushed in many more interval sessions, and certainly says it's feeling good. He said last year it was almost like racing with his handbrake on. Martin Fourcade, the biathlete, signing his name.
Well, he looks fairly fired up, and it's going to be fascinating to see how he gets on. He should be able to take the scalp of Anders Södergren. Södergren, a beautiful technician. If you want to learn how to ski, just have a watch of this guy. Fairly upright stance, very smooth on the skis. His weakness, exactly the same as Ole Einar Bjorndalen. He hasn't got a sprint. And with all the race formats going towards mass starts and pursuits, you have to have a sprint now to win major titles.
Yes, I think things 20 years ago, if Södergren was racing at the format then, where, as you say, individual races, you would expect him to have won many more World Cups.
Well, Musgrave finally finds himself pushed down into second place at the second intermediate time. But that's a very encouraging start from Musgrave, and hopefully he'll be able to keep that going. Pearl of Switzerland. Now, he started very fast indeed, 14:30 on the clock. He's going to be inside Dahl as well, and it's going to be a margin of 6-7 seconds. 7.5 the margin for Pearl, and pushing hard. It looks as though he's worked hard for that first 6k or so.
He certainly has, pushing very. It'll be interesting to see if now he can keep this momentum, or has he gone just a little too hard too soon. For me, he looked the legs looked as if they had no feeling left when he got to the top of that climb at 6.9.
Latvia's Arvis Liepins. Tall figure. Baggy suit. It's not baggy on most of the athletes. He just hasn't got the muscles to fill it at the moment. So that's flapping around. Not aerodynamically, not perfect. Whereas you can see the upper body strength of number 34, Thomas Bing, is fairly impressive. The triceps at the back of the arm are one of the key muscles, but ultimately you have to bring the lats into play, which are the muscles that run down the side of your rib cage at the back. And when these guys are in the shower, most of them are fairly triangular.
Yeah, very much so. A lot of power comes through the back. Teichmann used to be, hopefully still is, one of the best in the double poling. Huge power through his arms. Really love to see Teichmann get back some of his form as we've seen over the past few years.
Now, here he is, Martin Fourcade. How does he feel? He's out of his comfort zone here. There's no rifle on his back, so that must help. But the question is, how long will he be able to keep his maximum speed going? He's gone off incredibly hard. and he's going to be pressed to keep that pace going. You've got, what, 10 to 15 seconds of sprint, and then you have to ease up. Otherwise, you'll just have too much lactate to carry around the course.
Just thinking, Patrick, as 47 Rickardson takes his place, will Martin Fourcade take part in the mixed relay tomorrow night in Östersund? I doubt it in the biathlon. Probably wait till Wednesday.
Well, he's got to get there for starters. And it's a fair journey from Gällivare over to Östersund. Not in distance terms, but in terms of public transport and flights and taxis, I think you're absolutely right. He'll give that one a miss, but that's a shame. Krok of Norway, 7.6 outside. Nothing too much to be concerned about, but he doesn't want the margin to be any bigger on his second lap.
I think that's good pacing from Krok. He's paced the initial part of the race just nicely. You feel certainly his form is good coming into the season, as shown at Weiterstollen.
Lehtinen is outside the leaders at 6.9. Still leading at 6.9, Pearl, Lehtinen, Dahl, Musgrave. Musgrave 7 seconds outside the leader's time. If Musgrave gets within a minute of the winner, I think that would go down as a good time. Halverson is only 5 seconds or so outside, 6.3. Good start from him, but already looking a little bit fatigued. That upper body slightly crouched, not giving himself time to stand tall and fill the lungs. And as you were saying earlier on, Mike, one of the changes this season has been even more emphasis on getting the hips forward.
It does, and also we see it on the flats here, the lean from the body. There's this definite lean forward through the poles to maximize your arm strength through the dropping through the poles, compressing the ski poles down at the same time as your ski edge.
You see any new skis, boots binding systems on the glacier this year in Ramsau?
Yeah, there were a number of teams testing. They're going to be and will be on the open market. They have to be in order for them to race here, but yes, not much change, I thought, in the ski brands. There's not much more they can do with, what, 25 years of skating now.
Chris Freeman of USA, 7 seconds outside. That's not a bad time. Sweden have good contingent here. It's Michael Norberg is the last of the Swedes to start, but he's not one of the top seeds. He's just slotting in between Legkoff and Kershaw, so he's got a great start. Eriksson is here. Marcus Hellner is the top-ranked Swede in the ranks today. Johan Olsson goes off number 79. That was those two really the biggest chance.
And that was Olsson we saw earlier in the picture, and he did win in Bruksvallarna last weekend. Olsson, he looked beautifully easy on his skis, didn't need to overfry it. He won by some 20 seconds.
43, Hannes Dotzler coming up the hill. 5.10 from Nelson of Sweden, still leading, and Dotzler doesn't challenge that, but at 2.3, 6 seconds isn't anything to be worried about. Number 21, Tamjabi, just finishing his second pass of that particular split time. It's going to be busy out on the tracks, Mike. 3 times round the 5 kilometres. Any news on Martin Fourcade? 4.402, I think, was his first split, and the fastest.
The fastest. He hasn't come through the second split yet, so let you know when he comes through. So he's been through the 1.9.
Only got a second lead over Nelson at 1.9. 55. We're getting towards the latter stages of the start sheet. 97 starters in all, and the World Cup winner from last year will be last to go. That, of course, is Dario Colonia of Switzerland. Now, how many of you can name the man who finished second in the World Cup standings last year?
Man from Canada.
It was a man from Canada, Devon Kershaw. What a fantastic season he had. And Alexander Legkov was in third place. Most people, I think, will have gone for Petter Northug, but Northug, with his demise at the end of the season, down in fifth place overall. Sjöruth from Norway, one of the early seeds, and an opportunity for this young man to get into the top three of the Norwegians in this particular race. He's underway. We'll be back in just a moment with the rest of the starters. Welcome back. Gällivare hosting the first round of the cross-country World Cups for this season. Just a reminder, 29 individual races in all. We do have the World Championships coming up this year in February as well. So a number of the athletes will have decided that that's going to be their focus. Others will decide that they want to win the Tour de Ski. That's no easy task, particularly in the men's, where Dario Colonia has been the dominant force over the last couple of years. And some, of course, will just be looking for one brilliant World Cup race. Maybe today is the day that they've targeted. And if you're going to pick the easiest race to win of the season, Mike, is it number one?
I think when you go in fresh on a new season, certainly this track is not the easiest in any sense of the matter. But yes, you're fresher, you've done all your preparation, you're not race fatigued coming into this one. You may be training fatigued if you have pushed the mileage out in the early part of November.
Now, if you had a look at that caption, you might have picked up that Martin Fourcade is leading at 2.3 kilometres, the top of the hill after the first climb. That's a little bit like a red rag to a bull. The top cross-country skiers hate nothing more than being beaten by the top biathlete.
It's amazing, and it has happened many times over the years. Of course, Björn Dahlin has done it. And
Fred Anderson, he's been right up there in World Cups. And of course, Lars Berger. He won the World Championship title.
Incredible. And Osnas as well, the Norwegian biathlete, is in the IBU Cup team.
Russians. Well, I wonder what sort of season the Russians are going to have. They were more consistent last year, but of course, all their attention, every ounce of effort is going towards Sochi 2014, and that is getting closer and closer and closer. And it will be interesting to see, do they want to win the World Cup this year? Well, they'd come last in the World Cup if they could trade it for gold medals at the Winter Olympics next year.
That's the currency they're only thinking about is medals, and you say gold is the colour for the Olympics. A lot of pressure comes with that as well to get it right. And this season's so important for them to learn how their training is going and what to change.
Sergei Turyshev, is he going to be the man that can do it for the Russian team? Doesn't bother to wait for the long beep, and there's absolutely no reason why he should, but it makes no difference to his time. As soon as that wand is broken, the clock is running for Turyshev as his teammate comes up over 2.3, and Belov 6.6 off the pace set by Martin Fourcade. That's close. And actually, Mike, if you look at the top 10 over 2.3, there's still only some 7-8 seconds separating them.
It's very close, and I think it will remain close. Some big names coming through very soon, though, and just maybe Martin Fourcade's time will be knocked down.
Martin Fourcade, incidentally, starting number 46. So he's some 5 minutes behind Croft, who's gone through 12.1 off the fastest time. He's going to struggle to come back from there. Back to the German suits. This is Jens Filbrick, a very upright skier. He skis a little bit like Teichmann. Fairly easy to pick out in the mass start races.
I think Filbrick will do well today, Patrick. I think a top 10 position, and of course the German team with their new coach, Frank Ulrich, who's come from the biathlon coaching side, but he has given the German team a new lease of life, so a new impetus.
Fourcade's time has just been beaten at 2.3, 5:07.3, the new leading time. Sjöruth of Norway ahead of Fourcade, Lars Nelson of Sweden in third, Roman Ferger of Switzerland fourth, And Lehtinen is up there for Finland. The Finns need a decent season. Lehtinen, Heikkinen. The Finns have had problems. I was having a chat to one of the guys involved with their federation, and he just says all the teams have gone on their own. Instead of having a federation that tries to find the funding for the whole lot, they all split, thinking that they're all getting worse than the share that they deserved. And of course it has backfired dramatically over the last few seasons. And I hope they get it together, because it's been a shame. We haven't really seen them in ski jumping, we haven't seen them in Nordic combined, in biathlon they've vanished altogether, and cross-country skiing, where they've traditionally been very, very strong, they've been below par as well. 59. Tim Schanker for Germany. Started a couple of minutes ago. As Chris Freeman of USA round for the second time. 14:40 on the clock, 11.7. That's still not bad at all, as Dalidovic is the new leader at 6.9. I think he'll be happy with that, Freeman.
I think he will. He's still certainly in contact with the race, and you need to be within 10 seconds, or then you're beginning to lose contact to be able to change things for yourself, to lift yourself from 10th, 11th position. In fact, there's some 20 athletes separated by 7 seconds now.
Holteranen, new leader at 2.3. 5:06 now, the target time at the first split. And we expect them to get quicker and quicker and quicker, because, of course, the top seeds from last year are going to be the last men through this point. Musgrave still has a very good time at the 12.3 kilometre mark. We'll try and update you on his position. 12.3 is the last of the split points we're going to get here today before the finish. And Musgrave lying in second place, and 20 or so athletes have been through that stage. His time just around 26:20, but quite a big margin between himself and Kurt Pearl, who seems to have accelerated over the last couple of K. Martin Jonsrud Sundby of Norway. Well, he's certainly capable of winning this one.
Just thinking, Jonsrud Sundby, some 2-3 seasons ago, his strength was his classic. We know he's still great in his classic technique, but he really has put a lot of time and effort and training into improving himself in the skating, and certainly the evidence in Beitostølen, the FIS Cup race, says that his skating has improved dramatically.
And we know he's got the stamina. He got a second place in the Oslo 50 last year, and that's perhaps the most prestigious of all the World Cups. Here comes Fourcade. How's he getting on? He was leading at 2.3, but his time has since been comfortably beaten. Now, Dalidovic has the fastest time at 6.9, 14:29, and he's still got 15 seconds or so to match it. I think this is going to be very, very close, Mike, and an indication that Fourcade means business here. He hasn't just come here for a workout, he's come here for a victory, and he leads the way, 2.4 inside Dalidovic now.
He's looking good, but he's looking very good, and you know from what we've seen in his biathlon career, he's holding something back there, and almost at half distance for me, in a comfortable position.
I can't disagree that he looks good, but I can't agree that he looks as good as he did at the World Championship biathlon races last year, where he just was immensely strong, particularly over the last 3 kilometres. If it came to a sprint, you just knew that Fourcade was going to win. He was almost smiling, laughing at his opponents.
I got the sense that we saw him dancing up this, making it look easy. We'll have to wait and see, but there are some very big names still to go, so the race has got a long way to run. Fourcade was an early start number.
As we watch Kurt Pearl come in to finish, and his time 31:22 puts him into first place, 11 seconds inside the time set by originally by Roman Ferger, who's come back well over the last K to push Musgrave down. Musgrave has dropped away in the last 2 kilometres. He's lost 10 seconds on Curtin Pole over the last 2K. So I think once again he's shown a little bit of inexperience, going a bit too hard early on. I'd love to see him experiment with starting slow and going a little bit faster later on.
It'll be interesting to look at those comparisons. I think Andrew and Roy Young up there with him now, I think they'll be pleased so far, because Curtin Pearl, that result could stand the test of a top 10 position, maybe a top 15, and Andrew Musgrave just 25 behind that. It's very good racing.
Now we saw Martin Fourcade as Yaparov goes through 6.9. We saw him dancing up the hill as you described it, Mike. Most other people have a slightly less dynamic technique. Where do you stand on that? Because of course Raphael Poiret was really the first man to start it.
He was, and you don't, if we analyse that hill again, we won't see many of the top cross-country racers springing, dancing as a term, but springing their way up that hill. It uses a lot of energy, but it does reach you up the hill slightly further. In a little bit, Heikkinen is, well, no, he's taking the more smooth option. There is no jumping there. He's not leaving the ground.
Yeah, Heikkinen is grinding it out. Certainly, the dancing is nicer to look at, but whether it's more efficient, well, are the jury's still out on that one, or do you think you just do what feels easiest?
What feels easiest, and it is hard if you're used to skiing the smooth manner and the skate one on the steep hills, and then you change to this little flick, this jump. It feels initially a huge amount more energy. But we'll have to wait and see. For me, Fourcade looked much more comfortable than Heikkinen, with only 2 seconds separating them at almost 7 kilometres.
Alex Harvey in the Movember Club as well for Canada, as we watch Maurice Magnificat of France get underway. Magnificat 8th in the World Cup standings last year. It was a good season for him, and he is perhaps the best Frenchman out on the tracks today. There's going to be a bit of rivalry between himself and Martin Fourcade, that is for sure, and we'll keep a careful eye on that. 97 starters to go. We still have 16 waiting to leave that starting area, and Kozicek of the Czech Republic is the first of those. Lukas Bauer is already underway. Lukas Bauer started number 75, incidentally. I'm really interested to see how the man from Bozidar is going to do. He was the World Cup winner back in 2008. Marcus Hellner, well, what a star. The Olympic 30-kilometre champion, the world champion in the sprint event from Oslo 2 seasons ago, and perhaps Sweden's best hope today. Up to 6.9 for Alexander Belov, and 4th position. That is a solid performance. Heikkinen leading at that stage for Finland. That's a good run so far from Heikkinen, who started number 51. So pretty much halfway through the start. Now we go with Alex Harvey, 6th in the World Cup standings last year. 3 podiums in all. Alex Harvey, of course, the son of Pierre Harvey. I'm sure he gets fed up with that. He's good enough now just to give him his own credits, I think, Mike. And I think we could see something special from him this year. Year older, of course, he's only just out of the junior category, and looking very, very strong. Yes, he certainly is. As Rota went through there, taking 7 seconds off the early pace set, of course. Score Rota an early-ish start number. Maxim Vilizhanin for Russia. He's a good distance skier. He's been winning FIS races in Inari at the pre-season races, over 15 free and sprint races as well. So he's in pretty good shape, starting number 91 as we watch Hoffer coming into the stadium. 31.22. Tell you what we'll do is we'll get the clock on Hoffer as he goes under the banner at 31 minutes exactly, and then we'll get some idea of how long it takes from that craft banner into the finish line. 31.22 is under threat from Kurdin Pearl. He's got 5 seconds to make it and around 20 metres to go. It's going to be tight, but he just misses out. 0.2 of a second, and a sprint would have made all the difference there for Hoffer. Wow, that was close.
Well, at 12.3 kilometres, Hoffer had a almost 6-second advantage on Kurdin Pearl. So Hoffer has paced it a little bit too hard too soon, and he really has faded off in the final 2 kilometres. Maximum effort.
Who's going to be the best of the Italians this year?
I'd love to see Giorgio De Centa. He turned 40-year-old in October.
That's just because it might make you feel a bit younger. Surely Giorgio has no chance. This man certainly does. Petter Northug out of the stadium. We switch back to the intermediate time to see how Polteranen is getting on, who led early on, and he still leads at 6.9. Polteranen with a time of 14.09, and that is what Petter Northug has got to match. Mike, we only got, 2 seconds of Northug as he left the starting area, but instantly we saw that he means business.
Oh, he just, everything about him, he looked very relaxed before he moved on to the start line, just saving all his energy, and boy, he means business, you're right.
Starostin, one of the lower seeds, coming in, filling the gap between Northug and Villigzanin. Remember, there is a minute's gap between all the top seeds. Big smile from 95. That, of course, is Devon Kershaw, the number 2 in the world last year. And I hope we see another fantastic season from him. Now, Maurice Magnificat. Firstly, can he match Polteranen's time? No, we know he can't. Can he match Martin Fourcade's time at 2.3? We'll let you know in just a moment. 5:11.1. He's into 6th position at 2.3. Martin Fourcade 5:402. 4:02 actually was at the 1.9 kilometre stage. And Fourcade ahead of Maurice Magnificat, but only by about 3 seconds. Well, there's the world's best. Is he the best ever? Is he the best skier in the Tour this year? Who gets that honour? Well, it's an argument that goes on throughout the season. Of course, Colonia has won the overall World Cup 3 times, as we see Alexander Legkov start. But the only missing thing in his cabinet really is World Championship medals.
Colonia, absolutely right. For me, he is certainly up there, one of the best, if not the best ever. And this is good for Hellner. They've named the stadium after him, and it's going very well in the early part of his race.
Yeah, he's smooth, isn't he, on the skis? Beautiful technician. In fact, the Swedes over the years have always focused on that. Go back to Gunde Svan, of course, Thomas Eriksson, Torgny Morgren, all brilliantly technical skiers, very, very efficient indeed. Churisev, 28 seconds down, and he won't feature in the top 5 with a time like that.
I think the 2 big names for Russia, certainly at this early stage of the season, will be, we saw him just start, Legkov, and I also think Chernusov. He's his early season form, and what I saw on the glacier, he was training wonderfully well.
29-year-old Devon Kershaw from Canmore in Canada is underway. Canmore, of course, hosted the Olympic races back in 1988. I think Kershaw was probably about 5 or 6 at that time. There's no doubt that he was inspired by what he saw. He won the 15-kilometre freestyle in Rybinsk last year. So he's won over this distance in this style, but Rybinsk always has an exclamation mark next to it because so many of the top skiers don't go.
That's right. They're trying to make sure that a lot of the top skiers do attend all the World Cups this season. And
how do they do that?
You've got a minimum, you've got a requirement to take part in so many of the races.
But if they're going to choose one, they're going to choose one that involves a lot of travel.
And the Rybinsk, I agree, it's travel. Normally it's very cold, around about -20, and you don't want to risk heavy racing in those sort of guaranteed temperatures.
Yeah, I can tell you that the temperatures, as we watch Dario Colonia starting the favourite for today's race, And I had a quick check of the weather conditions in Russia. It's not too bad. -5, -6 in Khanty-Mansiysk today. Monday, Tuesday, it's going to be -22 to -25. Not nice.
Not nice at all. Chernousov, there he is, 7 seconds. I don't think he'll be too bothered at that stage, but he doesn't want to be further out than 7 seconds.
Axel Teichmann, I should say.
It's looking good. He always looks very relaxed. He's a very efficient skier.
Very strong, incredibly strong in the core areas, which has been a feature of the skiing over the last 2 decades, really. Ever since skating came in, they've realised the need to be incredibly strong around your abdominals and your back muscles and your lower spine, really to prevent the injuries that so many athletes suffered in the late 80s and 90s.
This is Martin Fourcade, and you mentioned that lower back and stomach. With, if you imagine the almost 4 kilogram rifle high up on your back, it certainly makes the core even stronger.
This is what you call a big margin, Mike, and I think you were right. He needs those 30-second breaks that he gets on the range. He will not be happy with that. 45 seconds outside. He started fast, certainly, but he's been shown how to do it. He's only just ahead of Andrew Musgrave of Great Britain.
I think we can safely say that Martin Fourcade's experiment to race at World Cup, it's not going well for him right now. It started well, but he hasn't been able to stay with the pace.
Well, that's great for cross-country.
It is, and it is a different sport. You're used to a slightly slower tempo when you're racing with this heavy rifle. Yeah. And, of course, you get the breaks, although albeit very short when you're shooting. You don't recover fully.
I actually think that the top man from cross-country should go and do a biathlon race at the beginning of the season. I'm not sure Colonia would be anywhere near the leaders. '93, Alexander Legkov. We're focusing on Sundby as he goes through, because Sundby of Norway has had a brilliant start. 14.06 at 6.9, and he's in the running for a top finish today if he can keep that pace going. Well, the snow has started. It's not too heavy at the moment, but it's forecast to be fairly heavy later on. And in the space of the last 30 seconds, it has increased. And that does not bode well for those who started late. Dalidovic with a fantastic time, 31.11. The new target time for the rest of the field. And Dalidovic is a man who's sprung a few surprises in the past.
Well, he's been around a long time, Dalidovic. 5 Olympic Games and 9 World Championships. So good at this stage in his career to see him starting the season so well. Legkov coming up the hill now with real focus.
5.8 outside for Legkov. Liliksanin.
Legkov, I like the way he experiments, Patrick. He had a change of thinking this summer. He went down to Australia and did the races down there in August. Of course, he won them.
Now, here goes Lukas Bauer. 22 seconds. I was expecting something a little more encouraging than that from Lukas Bauer. He's been racing in Munio, finished second up there to Matti Häkkinen, and that was over the 15-kilometre freestyle, and just a few seconds down on Häkkinen on that occasion, but not a good start from Lukas Bauer. '94. Many of you will recognise the technique of Michael Norberg, who skis a little like the top Swedes such as Marcus Hellner.
Kershaw, Patrick, I saw this last weekend in Bruksvallarna. He was way off Olsen's pace, and 14.9 at 2.3 kilometres. He's not in the race at all.
No, he's heavy. Those legs are slow and heavy. And you can almost see them thumping the snow in an attempt to get the skis gliding, but it's not working well.
I think Alex Harvey as well, he just looking down the results, it wasn't a great start for Alex Harvey to the 2.3 kilometres. Alex Harvey was 16.5 seconds down.
You haven't seen much of Södergren. I know he was in the top 10 at 10 kilometres. One of the other top Swedes that has a huge number of supporters here. Heikkinen 25.55 at 12.3. That is a good time, and certainly Heikkinen should be able to challenge Dalidovic as he comes into the finish. What about Dario Colonia, the last man to start today, coming up through 2.3, and Colonia has started steady. 9.1 seconds the margin, and the Olympic 15-kilometre champion is he's giving himself a little bit of work to do in the latter stages of this race. No real surprise. No real surprise. He's not renowned for the number of victories that he's got, Mike. Dario Colonia.
Well, he's always steady, isn't he? Often we've seen him at the beginning of the season being a little off form, and he soon learns his racing again, or his attack, his mindset. And I think that is his strength, his mindset. When it's needed most, he can plug into it.
Roth with a very, very encouraging time, an advantage of 7.7 seconds, 50 metres or so for the Norwegian. As Rickardson comes into the finish, as Mike said earlier on, the tall man had a troublesome season last year.
Looking a lot better. He still won't be entirely satisfied racing at home. He's not going to slot into the first place. We've seen that go. Still a good time.
Third in Pearl, just outside, and he'll come in to take a position in the top 5. 16.1 seconds, as you can see. Not bad, not sensational, no. Now, Martin Fourcade, at least he's raised his game for the last 500 metres or so, but he was 45 seconds behind at 12.3. Now he's 1 minute and 3 seconds down. It's food for thought for Martin Fourcade, and maybe his form not quite as good. I wonder whether the Norwegian biathlon team are rubbing their hands saying, haha, well, maybe we have a chance in the opening stage of the Biathlon World Cup in Östersund over the next 8 days.
Possibly. You saw the shake of his head. Fourcade not happy at all, and maybe this is an experiment he will regret, but he was in great form behind Northug at the Norwegian Cup race. Only some 30 seconds behind Northug over 15 kilometres, and that's probably what's inspired him to take part today, but not ideal.
Polteranin of Kazakhstan. Now he is going to go ahead of Roth, so we have a new race leader at 12.3, 8.8 the margin. That's an impressive performance so far. Can he keep it going? It's not a course that allows you to relax over the last 3 kilometres. He'll be well aware of that. Heikkinen into the finish now. 31.11 is going to be beaten, and Dalidovic, who's been in the leader's chair for the last 10 minutes or so, is going to have to move aside as Heikkinen comes into finish. 31.07, 4 seconds the margin, and a good start to the season for Finland's number 1.
I think Heikkinen will be delighted with that. He's one or the other. Some days he can be great and win races. We saw that at the World Championships in 2010, and today he's back on form, showing great performance into the early part of the season.
Alex Harvey, the balance isn't quite as good as it is when he's on his prime form. 34 seconds outside, not quite the form we saw from him in the World Championships in Oslo 2 seasons ago. This is Ilya Chernousov, his 55th World Cup today. Finished in the top 10 last year. And still pushing very, very hard. 40, he's going to be, what, 10, 11, 12 seconds outside the leaders, maybe a bit more than that. It's up to 15 and almost 100 metres adrift. Doesn't sound much, 15 seconds, Mike, but if you're 100 metres behind someone in a mass start race, it certainly takes a superhuman effort to close that sort of a gap.
It's huge. The margins are so tight now in the freestyle, the skating races. It's equipment, of course, it's your strength, your fitness, your technique over this undulating terrain. We haven't seen much, we haven't seen anything of Andrew Young, Patrick. I'm just looking now at 12.3 kilometres. He should be finishing soon. but he was 1:39 off the pace at 12.3 kilometres.
Even that's a fairly respectable time for Britain's number 2. Andrew Musgrave has produced a good race, and certainly with the snowfall that's coming down now, he's got the best of the conditions today with a start number of 6. Heikkinen still leads, Beloff into the finish, 5.7 outside and into 3rd position. So Heikkinen, Dalidovic, Beloff, Pearl, Hoffer, the leading 5. Finland, Belarus and Russia on the podium at the moment here in Gällivare. Now here comes Sjöroth of Norway, who has had the lead at the intermediate times, and Heikkinen's time of 31.07, 22 seconds roughly from the barrier. And I think this is going to be very, very tight indeed, but my money would be on Ruth to take the lead away from the Finn Heikkinen. 31 minutes exactly, 5 seconds now to cross the line. It's going to be tight, it's going to be exceptionally tight, and Heikkinen holds on with a good finish, just 0.9 of a second in it. Great finish, Heikkinen survives. I wonder how much the snow had to play there. Well, Mike, we've seen the top seeds. Colonia is off the pace. Kershaw is well off the pace. Alexander Legkov of Russia, who started 93, he's not leading the way in the early stages. I think the last 10 minutes of snow are making a significant difference.
I think there's definitely an aspect in there. Northug, bib number 89, he's gone through 5 kilometres. He's only 5 kilometres off the lead, which was held at that point by Jonsrud Sundby. So Northug certainly still at the races. Magnificat 11 seconds down in 10th position at 5 kilometres.
Now here's a potential winner today. Polterainen in the blue suit in the middle. Good cornering from Polterainen. Now Legkov. He's gone through in 7th place at 6.9, so he's really the 3rd seed today, having had a good run in the World Cup last year. No one from the top 3 from the World Cup last year looks as though they're going to win this one, so we could be in for a bit of a surprise. Nothing unusual with that at this stage of the season. On the left finishing is Tymoshenko, Polterainen on the right with a very, very good time. Now that could be tough to beat. 30.54 for 15 kilometres. 2 decades ago, a time of 40 minutes was good, and that's almost cracking the 30-minute mark. Astonishing.
Incredible, incredible. The last time they raced here, it was around 32, 33 minutes. Polterainen, what has he found there over the last 2 kilometres? He's taken 8 seconds, in fact, out of Heikkinen over the last 2 kilometres.
Jonsrud Sundby is the man at the back, wearing 73 in the Norwegian colours. Still looking very smooth, nice steady head, which is an indication that the balance is good. He can't afford to hang in behind Alexander Legkov for too long. He's got a lead of 12.3, but we've just seen Polterainen with an astonishing finish, so Sundby needs to be informed about that.
It certainly does, and it maybe, just maybe, in behind Legkov is going to work, because remember, Jonsrud Sundby is a lap, has 1 rotation more than Legkov, and that will be a good guide.
Yeah, and Legkov's a good climber. He proved that in the Alpe d'Huez, the last stage of the Tour de Ski last year. As we look at the standings at 6.9, any surprises there? We've got Pearl well off the mark. There's Dario Colonia coming up towards 6.3. He's already gone past Poirier, who started 30 seconds ahead of him.
Colonia, we can't write him off. He was 11 seconds down at 5 kilometres.
But he's going to be more than 11 seconds down at 6.9. Are you sure we can't write him off?
Well, just 21. I think we can write him off about now. At almost half distance. Not a good day for Colonia.
Well, it would be nice to see a comeback.
He is a master of his own pacing and his own feeling. When remember, in fact, we've got more than half distance, 21 seconds. If anybody can alter that pace in the second part of the race, Colonia is very good at it.
Yeah, as we look at Lukas Bauer coming up towards 12.3, it's the familiar style of Bauer. The head is down. The legs work very well indeed. It's a nice fluent action from Bauer, but 36 seconds, a margin that he won't close over the last couple of kilometres. 2.7 to go for Lukas Bauer from this point. I wonder, Mike, whether Colonia, like the rest of those who follow cross-country skiing, saying it is about time I got a World Championship gold medal, or a World Championship medal full stop. He doesn't get a chance to win one in the relay, but he's not got a World Championship medal at all. That's what he needs to really be put at the top of the all-time list.
For someone with the status of Dario Colonia, we see him so regularly performing well. The best last year, the best the season before. But you're right, he underperforms at World Championships. Maybe he puts too much emphasis on the Tour de Ski and winning the overall title. You have to keep a focus on one aspect.
But it's fair enough to say that when he says his focus is on the Tour de Ski, he wins it. When it's on the overall World Cup, he wins it. So if his focus this year, and he's yet to announce whether it is on the World Championships, maybe that's what we're going to see.
It is, but I've certainly felt in the past that you get with some of these athletes who do all the right stuff before the major championships. The press focus on them is so much. Expectations are so high, he can't quite deal with that pressure. Remember the 50 kilometre at the Olympics? Coming into 100 metres to go, the final corner, he was in third place. He fell, he finished ninth. And that can often be self-pressure.
Jens Vilbrich of Germany, already 55 seconds. He's going to be over a minute behind Polteranin's time. Polteranin, we don't think, is going to win this one because Martin Jonsrud Sundby of Norway is on the charge. We'll just update you on Andrew Musgrave's position in the finish. He started very early on, Andrew Musgrave, and we're hoping that he finishes in the top 30 today. He's currently lying in 17th position, 1 minute and 1 second down off the pace of the race leader. Sundby is some way ahead of that, so he could end up 120 behind the leaders. 79, Johan Olsen won the 15 free in Shushan at this time last year.
He won last weekend in Bruksvallana by a huge margin. Doesn't look half the athlete, just the image of him skating there. And he's a minute off the pace at 12.3. What a change in 1 week.
Sundby still looking very fresh indeed. The hands close together at the front. Powerful double poling. The timing between the upper and the lower limb power generation is very, very good indeed.
So impressive that the skating technique has been his weakness in the past. We saw him put it right a little last year. He's worked again this summer on getting the balance and the strength in skating.
Yeah, if you look at that upper body, it is absolutely steady. Now, to get an indication of what time he is going to do, add 22 seconds to his time through the craft barrier, 30.16, so we're looking at around 30.38, and that is comfortably inside Polteranin. He could be even quicker than that because our time guide for that margin wasn't particularly quick. Well, there you go, 30.37, a great run from Sundby, and is it going to be good enough to win? We'll have to wait and see.
Hellner's still on his case, 9.6 seconds behind. It's a lot to pull back.
It's a lot to pull back, but he is closing. He was 10.6 behind him a little earlier on. So Hellner won't give up the chase quite yet. What about Legkov? Can he do something? He's a bit further back, Legkov, so he's got more time to make up that margin. Legkov about 15 seconds down on this man. It's not a pretty sight, is it, at the end of a race? Is that a bad sign, all the phlegm over the face, or just an indication that the lungs aren't quite in tip-top condition?
Possibly, but remember, there is over 200 litres of air per minute that you're gasping into your lungs. Yes, it's only -1, but you're going to get some phlegm when there's that turnaround of oxygen being pumped through your lungs.
Most of these guys with a VO2 reading in the high 80s, some of them in the low 90s. Not the only indication of performance. Strength comes into it, technique comes into it. It's really the speed that you can ski at your VO2 max. That's what's so important. And your ability to extract the oxygen from the air and get it into your blood system. Now, Lukas Bauer, who has had his time at the top. Of course, two-time winner of the overall World Cup, Lukas Bauer. In fact, once he won in 2008. It was Toby Angra who won twice in 2006 and 2007. Lukas Bauer with 11 World Cup victories to his name, unable to add to that tally today. 47 seconds down. His form, perhaps at 85 to 90%. Certainly not on his very best form. Kershaw also struggling. Harvey, 1:08, is struggling. This looks like Chernozov, who started 87.
I like Chernozov's style, his flowing technique. He's really suffering, but he doesn't show it on his skis. His face is letting the secret out that he's dying. He's on his limit, 29.5 behind.
I'll tell you who we haven't seen, Mike. The biggest name in cross-country skiing, Petter Northug. Just hardly seen him since he started.
I mean, I can't believe they're not following him around. I know that he's offended the Swedes a number of times in his press conferences, but we haven't seen him. He's 25 seconds off the pace at 10 kilometers, and that puts him in 8th position.
Anton Lindblad, man from Sollefteå. The Swedes, as the host nation, entitled to enter more skiers than everyone else. Now, this has to be Petter Northug. He's a much better mass start skier. Look at that left leg. It's an incredible amount of angulation that he gets. I'm not sure that the medial ligament on that left leg is going to be quite as tight as it should be.
Ow, how many more years can that knee take? But look at, I love this, the spread of his arms, and that helps his balance to get the power through his edges. 31 off the pace.
Sundby still leading for Norway in the finish. We've got Polteranen of Kazakhstan in 2nd place, Matti Häkkinen in 3rd, Sjöruth of Norway in 4, Delidovic of Belarus in 5, Belov of Russia in 6. So a great mix of nationalities up in the top positions. The best of the Swedes is Kurdin Pearl at the moment, and David Hoffer of Italy is in the top 10 as well, just ahead of Lukas Bauer and Ivan Babikov. That's a good run from Babikov. He's in 10th position at the moment, but 47 seconds down off the leading time means that he's there to be shot at and pushed out of the top 10. And this man might do it. Marcus Hellner, who's driving harder than anyone else in the closing stages at the moment. 30:37, the time that he's after.
He's doing well. He's pulling time back. Patrick Hellner coming into Hellner Stadium. He needs that inspiration.
The Olympic champion over 30 kilometres. He was a little lucky on that day that Petter Northug lost a basket from the end of his pole in the closing stages, but he is a great athlete. Fantastic win at the World Championships in Oslo in the sprint discipline, so he could be able to make up a few seconds in the closing stages, and he's got every single one of this crowd behind him. We're looking at a time of around 30:50, maybe 30:49 if he can just step on it. He's not going to match 30:37, but a top 3 on the cards now for Marcus Hellner of Sweden.
What a technician. He had 9.5 seconds to make up on our last checkpoint at 12.3. Just not enough time to pull that back. In fact, he may have lost some.
He has lost a little. 11.1, 3rd place to Hellner. Polteranen survives in 2nd place. Martin Jonsrud Sundby, a convincing leader at the moment. And I can't see anyone else out there who's going to challenge Sundby at the last of the intermediate spots. No one else is anywhere close. Legkov 26 behind, who started behind them. Petter Northug 31 seconds behind. And Chernozov, who also started behind Sundby, is some 29.5 seconds behind. So I think it's safe to say that Norway are going to snatch their 2nd victory of the day. Marit Bjørgen, a brilliant winner in the women's 10 kilometre, and this man is just about there.
He must know it now. I think really Hellner was the man to threaten him, and he lost that little bit of time. Soonsby is aware that this title could well be his. And Hellner, I think Hellner really paced this race well. Maybe left it a little late to really get into his turbo, his top gear. He played it comfortably all the way through till 7-8 kilometers, and then really started pulling time back on the leaders at that point. Soonby getting all the complete change of clothing. The Norwegian coaches don't let them sit there unless they've taken all their race kit off.
Well, all that training has paid off for Martin, and it only pays off really for one man on the first day of the season. What a great way to start it. The Norwegians often do well in this, and I've always thought it's partly to do with the fact that there are so many men who could make the Norwegian team that they have to be on good form at the very start of the season. Doesn't always bode well for the end of the season, but it certainly boosts Norwegian sales of cross-country skis in November and December.
Do you know, you're right, there's 15 Norwegian skiers within 1 minute, really 1 minute 15 at the test out race, the selection race. So there's so many that actually could even be here and still place themselves in the top 10.
Alex Harvey for Canada, looking just a little ragged compared to his normal brilliant self. 1:24 down behind the leading time, and that's a big margin. That's over 500 meters that he's let go. Now, Dario Cologna, the world #1, is he going to lose the yellow bib? He is going to lose the yellow bib. No way he can make back 48 seconds in the closing stages. Schöner's off, 44 behind. That just shows you what sort of form that Jonsrud Sundby is on at the moment. 30:37 is a very quick time, especially in these conditions with the snowfall.
Yeah, a little bit more snow coming on in the later stages. I don't think that's accounting for much, because of course Sundby will start bib number 73.
Are we going to see a sprint from Northug in the closing stages? Can he go under 20 seconds from the banner to the finish? He might just do it. 30:52 under the banner. 31:12. If he does 31:12, Mike, that will where will that put him? In the top 5 or 6?
31:12. That should put him in the top 8, I think, if my maths are right. Yes, 6th place, 7th. Oh, just
7th place, 35 seconds down.
Northug took a huge, remember at the end of last season, he took time out from, what was it, the 15th of February, right the way through, and then he didn't really start training again till May, mid-May.
But the way he races, which is right on the limit, and the way you're having a look at the lung capacity there.
He's all lungs, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, the intensity of his racing, it's quite phenomenal, and I agree with his long break philosophy.
I think what I've noticed over the years with Northug is that he has to start his sprints earlier and earlier to make sure that he wins, because everyone else is aware that over the last 150 metres you've got no chance. And the Russians in particular really going for it over the last few years to try and beat Northug in those mass start races. We've got plenty coming up this season. They keep the time trials, as we've seen today, as an integral part of the cross-country circuit. There'll be an equal number of freestyle and classic races throughout the year, as we see Villigsanen in his bid to finish in the top 15, and he's done it. So handy World Cup points for Villigsanen. No paycheck for him today. Incidentally, Dario Cologna, the winner of the World Cup last year, he walked away with something like 339,000 Swiss francs, which sounds pretty handy, but divide it by 2 to get British pounds. It's not a lot for a season of 30 races. It's a pretty tough call.
It is. Luckily, they survive, and survive. You can easily survive on that amount of money, but they make a lot more money on their sponsorship deals, off their equipment deals, etc.
They do. A couple do. Not many. Maybe the top 5 in the world, or the top man in each nation.
Yes, there's a lot of money for the top, say, 10, but outside of that, it is a poor man's sport.
93, Alexander Legkov from Chianti Manzisk. 3 wins in his career. He doesn't add to that today. And We're still waiting for Devin Kershaw. Michael Norberg is still out there for Sweden. And Dario Colonia is yet to finish.
I think we can say
Colonia.
he's still yet to finish, but I've got to say, Andrew Musgrave, 26th position at the moment. I think he's only going to drop one more position, maybe down to 27th. That is a brilliant start to his season to pick up World Cup points. First time of trying.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see him achieve that all the way through. We saw him start the Tour de Ski well last year. He blew up halfway through, but still finished. There's the race winner. He's not the biggest of the Norwegians. That's encouraging for all those Norwegians under 6 foot. There aren't many of them.
He's all muscle though, isn't he, Sundby?
Yeah, powerful skier, powerful skier. Technically, he looked fantastic today, and he paced it very well indeed. Where was he on the first split time? I know he was leading by 10 kilometres. If we go back to 1.9, was Sundby anywhere to be seen?
No, I think he paced it beautifully. Sundby...
Give us an idea of where he hit the front. Was certainly 1.9. He was off the pace.
Have a look down to 5 kilometres.
And he was leading at 5 kilometres. So he took the first 3 kilometres, the first part of that loop, very, very steady. And 10 minutes into the race, he turned it up.
That's it. And 2.3 kilometres, he was happily down in 5th place, although in contact. And as you say, at 5 kilometres, he took the lead, and he was untouchable from then on in.
Devin Kershaw digging deep, and he misses out on World Cup points today. 43rd position, 135. It's a tight race, 135 between the top 40. That is tighter than we've seen in the past, and a really good indication that the doping control is working. And I can tell you that the cross-country skiers were tested more than any other of the Nordic sports over the summer period, and that has to be good news. Dario Colonia, 31.36 on the clock. He's not far outside that leading time, but it's not the best of finishes for him. 19th place. He started his defence of the World Cup Championship, but not in the most spectacular fashion.
Well, a lot has changed for the Swiss team. They've got this big waxing truck now, as a lot of the top nations have. I expected better from Colonia today, and I'm sure he would have expected a little better himself. It's still very good in terms of position, in terms of time behind the winner, but he'll be disappointed.
This man won't. I don't think he'll sleep tonight. He'll be so excited that he's got his first win under his belt. Just the way to start the season, the fisherman. Right on the ball. Let's have a look at Sundby. Looks so compact. He's, as we mentioned, he's not the tallest of the Norwegian team, but his upper body absolutely dead still. Efficiency right at the top level. A brilliant performance. Sundby takes the win in Gällivare. Well, not a bad first day for the cross-country season. Marit Bjørgen dominant in the women's. How impressed were you with her?
She did so well. She kept it steady, she kept it calm throughout, and of course her win by 12 seconds ahead of her teammate Johaug. I think Johaug probably expected to win that one.
Well, let's have a look at what's coming up in cross-country senses. The 4x5 traditional relay at the beginning of the season. The men go over 4x7.5 instead of 4x10. So that will be short and sharp. Very exciting race coming up tomorrow. Well, nice scenes here, and they've got that wood nice and dry. Let's have a look at the final times. 30.37, the winning time. Good mix of nationalities. Anyone else sticking out in that top 10 apart from Sundby?
I like the way there's 3 Russians in there, packed very tightly, so the Russians are going to be going strong this season. And of course, Switzerland in there. Dario Colonia, 1-6. I said earlier, he might be impressed. I don't think he will.
So, who's going to win the men's 4x7.5 on what you've seen today? Andrew Musgrave there, 27th.
27th. I would say tomorrow the Russians for me. Of course, Norway will come back. It's going to be to the line.
And in the women's?
Norway in the women's,
in the bag?
Convincingly, I would say it's Norway in the relay for the women tomorrow.
Well, join us tomorrow to find out if that is the case. And remember that the biathlon season gets underway in Östersund tomorrow as well, with the main races coming up later in the week. Ski jumping next with David Goldstrom. He's out in Norway, Lillehammer hosting the early rounds there. Thanks for your company today. 2 cracking races to get the World Cup underway. We'll see you again tomorrow, but from Mike and myself, goodbye for now.